Hi, Joe Glavin with City Floor Supply. Today we find ourselves in the Pro Shop stain aisle. What you see behind me are all the traditional stains and ways of coloring wood. But what we're going to talk about here are the non-traditional ways. We're going to use solvents to react with the wood and give it color. So what I have in front of me here are two raw pieces of white oak. Just so happens that one is a European cut, European wood, white oak, with and next to it is a traditional live sawn white oak from good old Pennsylvania. So what we're planning on doing is using a little bit of vinegar and steel wool mixture, which makes iron acetate, and also some of Rubio's Fumed. And we're just going to compare them side to side, apply them, let them sit, and then we're going to flip the boards over and we're going to use Woka's Antique Lye and Rubio's Smoked so that we get a compare and contrast. You'll see the reaction happen almost instantly with the iron acetate and the vinegar and steel wool mixture, as well as the fumed, the wood lye, and the smoked. So let's give it a try. What I have here on this side here is the European oak, and over here is the live sawn white oak. So what I'm doing is essentially I'm just thoroughly soaking the wood in the solution, and hopefully the camera starts to pick it up, but you'll see it's already reacting, which is kind of cool. And then that, again, that's the European oak. I'm gonna head on over here to the live sawn white oak. And as I said, with most solutions, you're probably going to want to saturate the floor. And again, what I'm doing is testing. So if I don't like this color, I can dilute this solution, and then, but I still want to saturate it so that we get an even coat and no blotchiness, no streaking. So if the wood is completely saturated with the solution, there's a reaction, and all of it reacts, all of the tannin reacts. So that is iron acetate, and we're going to do this on several different species. We're going to do American cherry, we're going to do Brazilian cherry and tiger wood for exotics. We're going to do it on some hickory, see what happens, and we're going to do it on most of the solvents that we would normally use. So we have fumed and smoked from Rubio, Antique Lye from Woka. We have a homemade solution of vinegar and steel wool. We also have a wood bleach kit, which is sodium hydroxide and hydrogen peroxide. We're going to mix those two, and we'll discuss that mixture and what it can do on pickling an oak floor. Very popular in the 80s, but those white floors are coming back. So, and then we'll do it on some American walnut. So we'll have some neat reactions going on, and as you can see already, they've turned, and this reaction is happening with the tannins in the white oak. White oak is loaded with tannin. So I have taken the tape off, and on the next half of the bare wood, we're going to use Rubio's Fumed. And again, all these solvents will produce different colors depending on the reaction that's going to take place. And any kind of testing you can do ahead of time to see how things are going to dry out, how they're going to wet out with finish, you want to do it on pieces like this, or maybe even larger samples, particularly if you're going to do this in someone's house. You want to know that, you know, a concentration of 5% vinegar and a steel wool piece from a double-aught steel wool piece in there for 5 days, which is what this mixture's been sitting for, is going to create that look on white oak. So, you know, if you wanted it lighter, you could dilute that. If you wanted it darker, you could concentrate it more and put more steel wool in. So there's a lot of different things that can happen here to get color without using traditional stains. So we're going to use the Fumed now from Rubio on this side. And again, you want to give it a good flooding of the product so that we get everything reacting that's going to react in the surface here. And it is just pulling tannin. And I'm going to actually lift this up so we can see this happening, because it's just instant. And you can see it on my brush, that reaction that is happening. So cool. Okay. I'm actually going to use, I don't want to contaminate this board and the look I get with the tannin that came from here in this solution. As you can see, you know, it's fairly gray. Again, this is the reaction. It pulled the tannin out of the wood, and I have it reacting in solution. So I'm going to bring this aside, get a new container and a new brush. All right, so you see I dripped there? Let's just see what happens on this side. Sometimes you can scrub these things out. Sometimes they get set in there. And saturate the floor. Nice thing about both of these pieces, because they're live sawn, they have a little bit of rift and quartered in them as well, so you'll see how the flecking reacts. Again, we got some good tannin pull out of there. You can see that that water has turned gray black. Again, these are rough sawn boards. We brought them in as samples to see the difference between white oak live sawn and the European cut material. But so we're gonna leave these dry, but I'm gonna show you. On the top is Rubio's Fumed solution, and on the bottom is good old-fashioned vinegar and steel wool. Now we'll even wet these out with some finish to show you what it looks like once they're wetted out with finish.